What's up guys? Today we're doing something a little bit different and taking a look at a few different paddles from the brand Luzz. Luzz is a brand that I don't think was on too many people's radar until recently with the success of the Inferno and the Cannon. But my question is, do they live up the hype and should you choose them over some of the more established brands? I won't dive too deep into the nerdy details, but I do want to give you guys a quick rundown of what these paddles are. They're all three using a floating core design, but the difference being the type of core in the center. For the Pro Cannon, the center core is a traditional honeycomb polypropylene core. Whereas with the Inferno and the Tornazo, these are both using foam cores, just different foams in each model. The two foam models are also significantly higher priced than the Cannon, coming in at a retail price of $229, whereas the Cannon is just $109. However, you can use discount code SCOOTER to save 15%, bringing the price of the foam models down to $194 and the price of the Cannon down to $93. Alright, with the brief rundown out of the way, let's get into how they play. Starting off, we're going to talk about the Cannon. To me, this is the real star of the Luzz lineup, mostly due to its insanely good price. However, it also has the performance to match. The Cannon is honestly a top-tier performance paddle, competing with paddles that cost well over double its price point. The Cannon is constructed very similar to paddles like the Selkirk Era Power and the 11624 Power Series, which are both well known for being very high-performing paddles. It has great power, great pop, and that classic Gen 3 feel and response that so many people still love. Next up, we have the Inferno. The Inferno has gained a ton of hype thanks to its unique feel and sound, but also its really solid playability. It's one of the softest foam paddles on the market with significantly more dwell than most, while still having plenty of power. The softer feel also tones down the pop and gives this paddle a really great ball shaping ability. I think this paddle is easily one of the best playing foam paddles on the market, but it also competes at a fairly high price tag compared to some of its competitors. At this price point, it's competing directly with paddles like the Bread and Butter Loco and is nearly $100 more than paddles like the Vatic V-Sol Pro, which are two of my favorite foam paddles currently. However, if you're a fan of big dwell time and want to get into the foam paddle world, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better option than the Inferno. Lastly, we have the Tornazo. The Tornazo is almost the complete polar opposite from the Inferno, being quite stiff and crisp. It's got a more poppy and immediate response off the face with a more linear and predictable feel. So while the Tornazo doesn't get the hype from the big dwell time like the Inferno, I do think there will be an audience of players that will appreciate the more crisp, responsive feel. The only big downside is that the Tornazo does have a bit of a smaller sweet spot, and shots outside of that sweet spot feel pretty harsh. Overall, I feel like the Luzz lineup offers really solid performance with some unique characteristics. I think that the Inferno is especially unique, offering that really unique feel that I really haven't experienced on any other foam paddle. However, if I were going to pick one from the lineup, it would have to be the Cannon. The Cannon is just such a solid performing, well-rounded paddle, and it comes at an unbeatable price. I have to admit that I was a bit skeptical about Luzz, but after thoroughly testing all their paddles, I am pleasantly impressed. So much so that the Cannon is actually one of the few paddles that has a permanent spot in my tournament bag. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and stay tuned, I have more reviews coming soon.